Hi there, my name is Rohan and this is my oral presentation for assignment 2A on my chosen topic of a study in the effectiveness of public education strategies in shark conservation. Now let me start off by saying this. Shark conservation is important because shark populations worldwide have been decimated by overfishing and are threatened with extinction. And this has implications for the overall health of the marine ecosystem. Now in this presentation, we will first start off by identifying and defining the problem of shark overfishing. I will then further elaborate on the demand drivers for shark's fin, while also quantifying the extent of the overfishing problem itself. The second part of my presentation discusses how the media's negative portrayal of sharks may be affecting the public's attitude and indeed therefore affecting its antipathy towards shark conservation. Now the third part of my presentation discusses public education strategies against shark finning that have been implemented and the effectiveness of their various approaches. My presentation then goes on to examine the public education strategies that can be deployed to approach the problem from the supply side of the shark finning industry, where shark fishermen could potentially be persuaded to forgo shark fishing itself and to exploit sharks in a more humane manner, in other words, as an alternative source of income through potentially lucrative ecotourism ventures. And finally, I will end this presentation with some key conclusions and also discuss how education strategies still need to evolve in order to achieve the ultimate objective of saving sharks from extinction. So, if you're ready, let's get into it. Okay, let's start by firstly framing the issue of shark conservation, specifically the problem of the overfishing of sharks. In their 2014 article entitled "The Influence of Culture on the International Management of Shark Finning," the authors Del Apa, Chad Smith and Kaneshiro Pinheiro explained that the main driver for the exploitation of sharks, and primarily their fins, is in its use as the main ingredient of a Chinese traditional delicacy called shark's fin soup. Now, shark's fin soup itself has been a delicacy since the 1st century during the Ming Dynasty, and that has evolved into the modern context where shark's fin soup has become an association of prestige. And this has greatly exacerbated over the last 2 decades due to the rising affluence and growing financial power of Chinese consumers. Now this has led to an unsustainable growth in demands for shark's fins just by the sheer size of the Chinese market. And that has resulted in large quantities of sharks being caught and killed, and this has led to a devastating and unsustainable effects on shark populations. Now Stevens, Bonfield, Dulvey and Walker in 2000 explains that the problem of overfishing is particularly acute in sharks due to their life history traits such as slow growth and late maturity, and this all contributes to the low reproductive rate and therefore its ability to recover as a species from overexploitation. Del Apa again et al. Further states that shark overfishing could lead to the extinction of several or even all species of shark. The article further elaborates that this has wider implications for the health of the ecosystem at large. This is due to the role of sharks as apex predators in the ocean, which helps to regulate prey species populations dynamics and keeping those relationships in balance. Now, looking at the statistics of the shark finning industry, it's actually quite grim. The non-governmental conservation organization Wild Aid estimates that fins from up to 73 million sharks are used for shark fin soup annually, primarily to cater to demand in China. Wild Aid further estimates that some shark populations have declined by up to 98% in the last 15 years alone. These are indeed some grim numbers, but hope is not lost, and I will explain later in this presentation. Given the importance of sharks in their role in the marine ecosystem, why has so little effort been placed in conserving their numbers? Well, unfortunately, sharks have been constantly portrayed in media and film as dangerous, mindless killers that should be eradicated. In a 2013 article entitled "Australian and US News Media Portrayal of Sharks and Their Conservation," authors Mutter, Gore, Gledhill, Lamont and Huveners take a look at whether news and entertainment media have indeed been portraying sharks negatively and therefore stoking fears for these creatures, and consequently this causes antipathy or even opposition towards shark conservation. A summary of the key findings of this study shows that a significant 52% of all media stories actually do portray sharks in a negative light by emphasizing news on things like shark attacks, whereas in reality shark attack occurrences are actually relatively rare. Therefore, it can be surmised that the media does have an influence in why sharks are seen negatively. However, there is some good news from the findings of this study. The trend of articles portraying sharks positively has indeed been on the increase. And this is important because ultimately the media remains a powerful platform for public education, and growing awareness on the issue of shark overfishing are starting to affect the media's own portrayal of sharks from a less negative perspective to highlighting the need for their conservation. The next point I would like to highlight concerns public education campaigns on shark conservation, and specifically celebrity endorsements as a key driver of this effort. Now, China is still the largest market for shark fins. It therefore makes perfect sense for conservation groups to target Chinese consumers in educating them about the environmental issues regarding shark fins. Specifically, non-governmental organizations such as Wild Aid have used celebrity endorsements for the purpose of conservation education effectively, and this has indeed resulted in the change of public attitudes towards the consumption of shark's fin in China itself. Wild Aid credits its large awareness campaign, which is headed by former basketball star Yao Ming and other celebrity endorsers, of having a desirable outcome in impacting the shark fin trade. Now, in my research, I cite a 2011 articles by authors Kineta, Chan and Si. While this article does not discuss the role of celebrity endorsements as a tool for promoting the shark conservation message per se, this article does discuss the overall effectiveness of celebrity endorsements in China in general. Now, the main conclusion is that consumer celebrity worship was the behavioral antecedent for endorser effects. It has also been found that celebrity endorsements have a higher effectiveness among the younger demographic, the cohort of global materialists, in another business research paper published in 2007 by Hung, Guo and Yim, as the emerging generation with growing economic clout. It is therefore key to engage with this demographic in order to achieve the long-term objective of shark fishing. Now, so far we have examined public education strategies for shark conservation in attempting to reduce the demand for sharks inside. Now, the supply side of the equation also needs to be addressed as well. Another viable public education strategy involves providing an alternative source of income to people who engage in shark finning practices, and we're talking about the fishermen who actually catch the sharks themselves. Now, shark ecotourism has the potential to serve as this alternative. In a 2013 article entitled Global Economic Value of Shark Ecotourism, Implications for Conservation, precisely discusses the economic value of shark ecotourism. Now, the article postulates that global shark ecotourism has the potential of generating an estimated US $785 million in direct visitor expenditures annually within 2 decades. However, there are some practical issues that need to be addressed. While the potential for shark ecotourism as an alternative revenue generator is actually very viable, there are still significant challenges in transitioning between these two economic resources, such as the education and realignment of the attitudes of the fishermen themselves, or the infrastructure implementation and expenditure required to facilitate shark ecotourism on a viable scale. Let me conclude this presentation by stating that the issue of education in the context of shark conservation is very complex and needs to be approached from various angles, such as strategies for altering consumer perceptions, changing long-standing cultural attitudes, educating fishermen and fisheries on the unsustainable nature of current shark fishing practices. Recently, however, there appears to be genuine headway in successfully reducing the demand for shark's fin. Various news sources so far have reported as much as an 80% decline in the demand for shark's fin, and particularly in China, due to successful public education campaigns and the Chinese government ban on shark's fin at state banquets. At any rate, education strategies for this needs to be constantly evolving to match the primary objective, which is to save the sharks. So, that's it for my presentation on my education strategies for shark conservation. I sincerely hope you have enjoyed it. Thank you for your time and attention.